Hello, this is Hotep Marwet Talib coming to you once again with another rant video in my own opinion. My thing is this. I decided to do a video talking about the Bible a little bit. I'm a firm believer that if you don't know much about something, then you shouldn't speak on it. And being as though I come from the Hebrew Israelite faith, I feel like I can speak on it, and I want to speak on it, and I will. I've never considered myself a Hebrew Israelite because I didn't want to be associated with the things that those people were associated with. Racism, the down talking of black women, and just ignorance, and just violence, and just, I don't know. So, but I did, come to the realization previously that certain things in the Bible, I agreed, sounded like my people. And so I began to read the scriptures, and I began to subscribe to certain aspects of that way of thinking, especially coming from Christianity. I've always believed that this book was true, and it just, rang even more true as I came into the Hebrew knowledge. I'm no longer that. Thank goodness. I feel like I'm more freer than I've ever been. And I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about, I want to spew my opinions on why this book right here is garbage. It's just is garbage. I just told my husband yesterday that when I would see this book, just the sight of this book laying on a table or in somebody's hand, I used to view it as the most powerful book in the world. Like, I was like, that book has a lot of power. It has a lot of, positivity and glory, and which is what it's supposed to make you feel like. That was the purpose of it. That's why it was put out. But now, knowing the truth, this book can go in the same pile as a Dr. Seuss's book. I mean, it's a waste of paper if you ask me. If you like fiction and if you like a good read, this is a wonderful, confusing story. It's a great fiction story. But if you're trying to look for some history and truth, you might as well get this to your kids to play with. Seriously. But yeah, let's just jump right into it because I got just a few things, not a lot. But you know how it goes. I might start talking and one thought might lead to another. Let's see what happens. But there's just a few things I wanted to kind of bust out. I think I'm going to call this busting out the Bible. That's probably what I'm going to call it. We'll see. So, in my opinion, the Bible is pretty much a book written by a God, the God, a God. And it tells us a story of a beginning of a people, of the human race, even, if you will. And when you get right down to it, and tell me if you feel me on this, or tell me, if you don't see it that way, whether you a Hebrew Christian or regular person, atheist or not. But once you really get down to it, it's basically a book, in my opinion, that's saying that God created us. Okay, you go through life and people say, well, everybody has a purpose. You have to find out what your purpose is. And it's my belief and opinion that Hebrew Israelites, they feel that our purpose is to serve our God. He was gracious enough to give us life and love us. And the least we could do in return is be loyal to him and do what he says, because if we do, then the rewards would be great. So, with that being said, it is safe to say, in my opinion, that this God created a people just for the purpose, for no other reason. Okay, now you have to understand, you're the Most High, you're God. You hold all the energy and power that you're about to release to these people. And with that being said, he made us, or the human race, or the Hebrew Israelites, whatever one you want to pick. He made a people for the simple purpose and none other but just to see just to see if these people that he was going to create and put on earth, he made them just to see if they would do what he wanted them to do. Does God get bored? Or, I don't know. I mean, if you're almighty and all knowing, and these people are your children, they come from you, your energy, and you are creating and molding them. I mean, shouldn't you know your children? You should know yourself. Does God not know himself? So did he not know if we were going to be in his likeness? It said that we were made in his likeness. So he wanted to see. And the reason why I said that that's the purpose is because all throughout the Bible and even throughout life now, you hear people say, God is testing you. It's a test. God is testing you. God is trying to tell you something. God works in mysterious ways. Why is he so mysterious? So he's bored and he's childlike because he likes to play games, He doesn't like to be straightforward, honest, and direct. He likes to hide stuff like an Easter egg hunt. What's the purpose and point of that? I really don't know. I really don't know. That doesn't sound like a God that I would want to follow, putting me through stuff just so that I can prove my love to him. If God is all knowing and all powerful, and a lot of people say sometimes, God knows my heart. If he made you and he knows you, he should be able to feel you. He should be able to feel if you're genuine and sincere, if you know him and if you love him and if you appreciate life and all that. He shouldn't have to, make your house catch on fire to see if you still gonna love him. I mean, after all, we're only human. So, I mean, if we were perfect, then we'd be gods too, right? Even though somewhere in the Bible it does say that we are gods, but he's the most high God. He's different. He's perfect. We're not. That's what people say. So we're not supposed to get upset and angry and have emotions. And who says that you can't get upset at God anyway? I mean, disrespectful, no. But you can. Why you can't get upset at your God? But that's basically what this comes down to, in my opinion. God made people just for the simple fact, reason, and purpose to see if we would do what he wanted us to do. That's the only reason. It starts in Genesis when he made Adam and Eve and he sent this serpent into the garden to test them. From the very beginning, that's what he's been doing to us. What's the point of that? So you create children and you don't know if they're going to listen to you or not. And so you constantly test them to see if they will. So with that being said, once again, it is my firm belief and opinion that this book perpetuates that this God was bored or some other reason, some other silly reason, and he decided to create human flesh people and give them a beautiful place to live and all of this stuff just to see if they would listen to him. Okay, and you might say, well, yeah, because if you do listen to him, then you get rewards. I understand that, but they said that God is love and he's supposed to love us. Why can't it be just, old, regular, just unconditional love? Why must we have to constantly be put through tests and do things to get grace from our Father? Why can't he just grace us on the principle that we're his children? And, just like going back to the human parenthood, just like if a parent has children and one child does well, then you might reward them and another child might not be doing so well. You might punish them, But is it all about listening to what I say, or is it about, being the best person that you can be? I mean, parents want the best for their children. I mean, is it, and we have those situations in real life where parents kind of hammer into their kids what they want them to be, I want you to be a lawyer. You're going to go to medical school. And those situations sometimes don't turn out so good. You should love your children for who they are and let them be what they want to be, as long as it's something positive and it's not going down a destructive road. And that's kind of how I see the Bible doing. It's like, no, I need you to do this and this precisely. And if you do this, I will give you this. If you're just a good person and you have a good heart and you help people and you love people, your people, if you just have a good heart, you know, why can't God reward you for your good deeds? Is that not enough? Just doing good things? Why do you have to do specific good things? You know, I mean, if you're intelligent and you care about your body, you're gonna know not to eat certain foods for sure. We didn't need God to tell us that, because how do we know that now? Do we know that because God told us that? No, we know that because we can study the human body. There's science, and there's the medical field, um, which they had back in those times. You know, ancient Egyptians were taking blood and stuff like that. So we didn't need anyone to tell us not to eat pig. Common sense, intelligence, and care about yourself would tell you, if you studied that animal, which doesn't take much, that you shouldn't put that in your body. So I appreciate it, you know, from the guide, but I'm just saying it wasn't needed. Another thing, so he's supposed to be God, the God in the Bible, and he speaks to the people. He has a voice, and he talks to Moses, and he talks to, you know, the people. And the question for me becomes, but okay, he talked. He had a voice. He talked to Adam in the Garden of Eden, but no one has heard from him since then. And so a brainwashed person might say, oh yeah, but you remember that verse in the Bible where, you know, the children of Israel or whatever were in the desert and they told Moses to tell God not to speak to them anymore or they'll die? Question number one, does God do what he wants to do, or does he do what you tell him to do? If he wants to speak, he's a God, then he will speak, right? Okay. Or, you know, like he's done many things like this in the Bible. They said, don't tell him not to speak, will die. I'm sure he could have did some type of whooshing over them, or he could have toned it down a little bit where they wouldn't have felt so afraid to hear his voice, and he could have continued to speak to his children. The God of the Bible has the ability to do that, in my opinion, because he's done similar things. But he just said, okay, whatever, all right, I'm not going to talk to you no more. Secondly, if a person is writing a story, a man-made story, and they want you to believe it, and in the book they're telling you that this deity, if I had a statue of, I don't know, an owl, and I wrote a book about this owl, and I said, you know, 13,000 years ago, this owl used to talk. You know, it used to tell people their horoscopes, you know. And, well, it doesn't talk anymore because people used to be frightened by the things that it would say. So, you know, an enchanter came and then put a spell on it and turned it into stone. True story. True story. Little do you know that when this owl was conceived, it was made from stone. But if I want you to believe the magic of the story, that this owl used to talk, and somebody who's logical will come and say, well, how come it doesn't talk anymore? I gave you the answer. They will give you the answer to your question so that you will not have any questions. That's the point. That's the problem. Well, they got scared of it, so the witch came and put a spell on it. Oh, that makes sense. It really doesn't. But that leads me to my next point, which is something that I've been trying to drill into people's head, and I hope that I can drill it into your head. Listen up. I think that in actuality, when you read the Bible with an analytical and logical mind, with an open mind, and individually, and you're not following people and you're trying to read it intelligently, I'm thinking and I'm hoping that you will find that the book actually does not make sense. It just doesn't. And it's a book that has no end. And what I mean by that is you can't dispute the Bible, because The people who wrote this are very, very intelligent. They're very smart. And I'm saying that to say that what they did was they wrote an answer for everything in the Bible. It's kind of like somebody literally read over it and was like, oh, there's a loose end here. This doesn't make any sense. So let's go to the end of the book and let's tie that loose end up. Let's write this in. And that's really how the Bible reads. That's how the Bible works. You can find something in Exodus and somebody might say, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then you can go to Job and it will kind of tie it in and make it sound a little better. That's all throughout the Bible. You can find something in Isaiah that doesn't quite sit right and it kind of doesn't make sense to you. And then you can find something in Joshua that ties back into that and it makes it sound a little better. There's a chapter for every chapter. There's a verse for every verse. That's the point I'm trying to get to. Where a verse leaves a question, there's a verse that has an answer for it. Which leads me to my next point. The book doesn't make sense. But I used to believe in it. And I think a lot of people do. Hebrew Israelites and Christians believe in it because in their heart, they have this spiritual connection with this being that they was told that loved them. And based on that spiritual feeling, a lot of the stories in here make sense to them. But like I said, if you read it with a logical, analytical mind and a sharp eye, you'll see that it really doesn't. Forget all that answer verse with another verse stuff. It doesn't make any sense. But secondly, even if it did make perfect sense, just because something makes sense does not make it a fact. I'm sorry. And you should know that. Just because if you do feel like, look, this book is irrefutable, it's undeniable, it matches up, is gold. Just because it makes sense to you doesn't make it true, okay? A lie has to make sense in order for it to work, okay? If a man is cheating on his wife and he comes home late every night because he's been with another woman and his wife asks him, where have you been? And he says, oh, honey, I was working late. Well, that makes sense because why does that make sense? Because that is very possible. That can happen. You went out the door this morning to work in your work clothes, and it's very possible that you probably got hung up at work. It happens all the time. That makes sense. But is it true? No, it's not, because I just told you that he was with another woman, okay? A woman could be cheating on her man, you know. Where have you been coming in at 2 a.m.? Oh, I caught a flat tire, and so I just slept by Shanice's house because we was closer to her house and AAA was going to take too long or something, whatever. Now, just at the end of that, to me, I don't know how it sounded to you, but it began to sound like it didn't really make sense, you know. Oh, because AAA was, you know, it's going to take too long. And it's those type of lies that make you raise an eyebrow and you start questioning stuff. But the problem with the Bible is when you do that, someone always got another verse to answer your question. You never find answers to your question outside of this book. And how can you answer questions in this book with things in this book? It's in the same book. So of course it's gonna have something to rebuttal or to answer it if they want you to believe. Because something makes sense does not make it true. If lies didn't make sense, then you could call it out. You know, this was a very thorough and knowledgeable, thought out project, you know. And I just want to point something out. I have this book here. This is a book. This was a I'm sorry, I don't know if you guys see that backwards, but this is a book that was given to me as a birthday gift like 3 years ago from a friend of mine. This is called 12th Night by Shakespeare. He knew I was a Shakespeare fan. I don't know why. I just like the stories that he tells. He's a good storyteller, which is very key for what I'm about to say. And I'm going to see if I can find the page. And maybe you guys have heard this. I'm sure you have. But I want to read it straight from this book because I read it in here. And it's just a stage play that's written in book form. It's supposed to be a funny romance story or something. I haven't gotten deep into it. Well, anyway, I couldn't find it. So I'm going to just basically say it's in this book. And maybe I'll find it later and upload a clip and slip it in. it's in the beginning of the book too. It's like in the introduction. It's just a little background history on Shakespeare and, you know, his work. It's in this book in the very front, like the first like 30 pages or something. But anyway, it's basically saying how, you know, Shakespeare it is, you know, widely known or assumed rather that Shakespeare had something to do with the Bible. They were saying that the King James Version, when it was, you know, written, published, released, whatever, Shakespeare was 46 years old. That's what this book is saying, and you can find this on the internet too, not just from this book, but from other sources. But it's in this book as well. They're saying that Shakespeare was 46 years old when this was, you know, set to be released. And, you know, they pinpoint a Bible verse, and they say if you go to this chapter, this verse, and if you count down from the first word of that verse, if you count down 46 to 46 words, you will find shake. S-H-A-K-E. And then I believe they go on to say at the bottom of that chapter or that, you know, if you count up 46 words, you will come across the word spear. S-P-E-A-R, which makes Shakespeare, and he was 46, letting you know what age he was when he, you know, wrote that. And the reason for this is because King James or whoever did not want people to know that the Bible was plagiarized and fictional. When any artist does work, a painter, a sculptor, you want credit for your work. That's why we have copyright, you know, issues. You want credit for it. But King James told him, no, you can't sign your name to this because this is not a work of fiction. This is religious. This is real stuff. So Shakespeare did that as a way to put his signature on his work anyway. Coincidence? Maybe. I don't think so. I don't think coincidence happened that much in this lifetime anyway. So